Welcome again to Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn. As always, I'm Ali.
I'm Rashad.
And today we have the privilege of being joined by Sarah Nassar, a law student at the University of Detroit Mercy and a huge disability advocate in our community. How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Sorry, I have this instinct of saying Sarah because I have a sister named Sarah. I don't usually say Sarah. I'm doing well. We're very happy to have this conversation with you, learn more about you, and, continue advocating for individuals with disabilities in our community. So first and foremost, please tell us a little bit about your disability.
So my condition, it's a neuromuscular condition. It's called muscular dystrophy, and what it does is it progresses over time and makes your muscles weaker. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are different kinds of muscular dystrophy, I believe, right?
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit more about which kind that you have?
Sure. I think mine is type C something. There's different types, so you're right about that. I know I have limb-girdle. What type? Maybe, 2C. I have type 2C, and I don't know if that's truly accurate, to be honest with you, because the research for it isn't as advanced as it should be.
Yeah, the research on, we're working on a muscular dystrophy post right now. On our Instagram page, we like to highlight certain disabilities that align with the given month. And we were highlighting muscular dystrophy for the month of September. And we came across a lot of different kinds. Some affect males more than others. So that's why we were kind of interested in knowing more. So tell us a little bit more about how it progressed in your life from early childhood or when you were first diagnosed with it.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, teachers assumed I was clumsy because I would trip and fall a lot. And then there was a school concert. And what happened was everyone in my class was getting ready to stand up. And for some reason, I just couldn't. I was stuck on the floor. Finally, I did stand up, but my legs were numb. And my teacher told my mom. And then I went to the doctor. The doctor did blood work. And he told her to send me to the hospital because they thought something was wrong. They were like, oh, she's dying. She should not be here. I stuttered. But yeah, so they said that she was dying. She shouldn't be here. Take her to the hospital. Turns out the results were completely inaccurate. And we had to do a bunch of different exams and I think a biopsy in my leg, which really hurt. And then they found out it was muscular dystrophy. At first, they thought it was the one that only men can get, Duchenne.
Yeah.
But only men can get that one. So
right.
Then they figured out it was this one. And the way it progressed was I would just I was able to walk. Then I would trip a lot, I would fall, then I wasn't able to walk as much. It went from 10 steps to 5 steps to no more steps.
So it was very gradual?
It was very gradual, but it would happen at it's progressive, but it also doesn't progress. It could stop for a little and then you'll be fine and then it just comes back and re-progresses.
I want to know more about that day where you were trying to stand up with the rest of your classmates. I'm sure it's a vivid memory that you have. Could you just tell us more about that day, how you were feeling, your emotions during that time?
Yeah, I thought about that day a lot. It started off like any other day. It was so normal, right? I went to school. It was second grade. They called us in for the practice for the concert. And we all were sitting down on the floor. First went 5th grade, then 4th, then 3rd, finally 2nd. And in that moment, I don't know why, but it felt have you ever had goosebumps for no reason? Thinking back at it, that's what I had, and I don't know why, and I just could not stand. And then when I did, I was just this is so weird. I don't know what's going on. But I didn't think much of it until after the concert actually happened, and the teacher told my mom, and that's when I went to the doctors. And even the day that I found out I was diagnosed, I didn't know I was going to the hospital. My mom told me she was taking me to Chuck E. Cheese, okay? She was picking me up from my cousin's house, and usually, if we're going to Chuck E. Cheese, my cousin's going to come. So I was so confused. I was why are they not coming, though? Why am I going to Chuck E. Cheese by myself? I saw the signs. We finally made it to the hospital. I was betrayed. I was lied to, but it is what it is. And then you want to know the most traumatic part about that whole thing? When we got there, we got to the emergency room, and this nurse comes to me. They don't do this anymore, by the way, but they used to. She gave me a doll, a bear, and she told me to stab it, to give it, a shot. And then she proceeded to do that to me, and she couldn't get my vein. So she did it 20 times. And she's it's okay, just keep poking the bear. I'm bro, I don't want to poke the bear. I'm good, thank you. Don't poke me either.
My God.
They shouldn't do that to kids. I don't know why they did that. That's some trauma on a whole different level.
Yeah, now they've come up with more like elaborate ways of distracting the child without making them poke bears.
Yeah.
You know, they have people who make the kids laugh and all of that stuff. So how quickly after that hospital visit did things progress? What happened after that? And when was the official diagnosis made?
You know, that's a good question. I'm not sure how long after the official diagnosis was made. What I do know is my parents didn't hide it from me. I knew I was going to get weaker. I just didn't understand the whole, you can't overwork yourself or you're going to get weaker. So, like, I would be stopped from doing a lot of things. Like, instead of me going up the stairs, they would, like, have the school take me up the elevator, which, like, at the time was fun. You know, everyone was excited. They wanted to volunteer to go with me on the elevator. So it was, like, I guess, fun for them. And then for me, it was just confusing as to why I was being stopped from so many things. Did I answer everything?
Yeah.
And so around that age, like, you're not really thinking about, like, how you look necessarily to others, you know, when you're that young, second grade, third grade. But did you notice any changes in, like, the people around you, how they acted towards you, maybe friends, if they got closer to you and offered their help more or backed away from you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know it, but as I was getting weaker, like, I was walking differently, and people would see that as, like, you know, different, weird, strange. So I would have other kids, because, like, everyone in my class, my mom had someone come to the school and do, like, a presentation on muscular dystrophy. So my classmates, the new people, they weren't mean to me. It was actually, like, the new students who had come in, they would, like, be like, why are you walking weird? And I'd be like, well, like, what do you mean? Like, I don't see myself walking, so I don't know that I'm walking weird.
How old were you at this point?
Probably, like, 5th grade, 10,
Okay.
12 maybe. 12. We'll go with 12.
Okay.
And I know that, like, gym class is, like, a big part of, you know, the earlier school years. So what would you do during, like, gym class? How would you spend your time? Would you maybe instead, would they have, like, exercises for you to do, or
They would just have me sit in the corner and watch.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, I don't know. I never really thought about it until today. So I guess it made me feel not great, especially, like, sometimes in recess when there were things that I couldn't do.
Okay.
They probably should have been more, or come up with something more inclusive, now that I think about that.
On that note, you know, it sounds like we're drifting into the accommodations territory. I want to know more about your experiences with accommodations, if there were any. It sounded like your teacher on that day where, you know, she mentioned your problem and called your parents. That's when awareness started. But I want to know more about the accommodations in general at the school. How was that like, and were your teachers at all accommodating?
I would say for the most part, where I went to school, everyone was accommodating. There were a few instances in middle school that were probably not, they don't deal more with accommodation, but more with discrimination and how you should be treating people with disabilities. I had my helper in middle school. She was like my paraprofessional. She was basically like a personal assistant for me then. Threatened to push me down the stairs. She took my manual wheelchair at the time, and it was like a stroller, so it's not one that I could control.
Oh my God.
And she took me near the stairs, and she was like, I could push you right now. I think I'm going to do it.
Did you report her or anything?
I did.
How old was she?
She was very much older. I would say she was at least 40.
We don't want to, you know, identify any person, but that really bothers me. That's yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Well, did she at least get fired?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
oh,
good.
yeah. She was not allowed with me the day after that happened. You see, I'm very privileged to have, like, a mom who, like, has me not just speak up for myself, but tell her if someone's doing something that's wrong or abusive. But a lot of people can be, like, emotionally manipulated or physically abused with disabilities, and, like, there could be instances where they either are unable to speak or they just are so manipulated into, like, I don't know if manipulation is the word, but they're scared to tell someone.
I think manipulation is a really good word. And we've actually talked about this very topic with other individuals with disabilities who they feel like even family members could kind of take advantage of them or not include them in the best way. But it sounds like you have a great relationship with your mom. Tell us a little bit about that.
Strong advocate for you. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that connection, and, you know, after the diagnosis, how that did the dynamics change? Did your bonds get closer with your family members?
Yeah, so I would say my relationship with my family stayed the same, always family oriented. There were times when they didn't know what my diagnosis was and thought I was going to die. So my dad would come home every day with a new gift for me. And every time we went to the hospital, my mom would take me to the gift shop, and I'd also get to like get a lot of toys.
So you were spoiled a lot is what I'm hearing.
I was very much spoiled at something new, almost. Actually, it was every day, multiple times a day.
What was your favorite gift that you've ever received?
You know, it was like, so there was this I had a PlayStation, and my dad got me like something for like, that you could use like for your feet, like not to bike. I don't even remember what the game was, but it was like something so cool like that, because you could integrate like with the video game, the actual like pedals. I don't know.
That's really cool.
It was fun. It was very fun.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they stopped coming after they found out what I had and that I clearly wasn't going to die.
Do you think that was sort of like maybe your dad's way of trying to like give you therapy at home, maybe in hopes that like the condition would not progress?
Maybe. I think he was just scared that I was going to die, and he was like, let me make her happy before she does.
So speaking of therapy, is there any physical therapy done for individuals with muscular dystrophy? Are there any treatments? Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Right now, there aren't really any treatments. I know there might be something for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which affects males, but nothing for females. We do have physical therapy. It's not preventative anymore. It's more of to like stretch you and keep everything from stiffening up. I think you would know what the word is for that, but
tetanus? No. Is it tetanus?
Contractures, yeah.
Contractures.
So the muscles don't contract. So there is like, and there's pool therapy, which also is like more stretching, and like over there you can not, again, you can't really prevent yourself from getting weaker, but to like keep things moving.
Yeah. So do you tell us how you feel on a typical day? Do you get pain from this stiffening, or how does it look like on a day-to-day basis?
Every day is different, I would say, for anyone with a chronic illness. For me, I get pain probably like with law school a lot because I type so much.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would get like pain in my arms from typing. I get hip pain, back pain, but not every day, but most days, I would say. But you start to live with it. You know, you get used to it, so it's not like I'm in pain right now.
Yeah.
But I could be in pain, but like I'm not in like dire pain.
Right. So we talk about, conditions like muscular dystrophy progressing. How did it progress throughout your body? You said that you can still type, so you still have mobility in your arms. What parts of your body are limited, and how does it progress typically? Or is it different for each person?
It's different for each person. So like I have limb-girdle, right? So it affects my shoulders and my hip muscles. So what happened was like you use your hips a lot more than you would think to like stand up straight, to like pull yourself up. So when I would start falling, like it would get harder for me to like stand back up because of my hip and my shoulder muscles. So I would say those are what is most affected for me in terms of mobility. Yeah, so it would be like mainly my hip and shoulder area.
Mm-hmm. So I have what I think is an interesting question for you. If you were like going down the street one day and then you saw a mom or a dad and their children walking with them, and they asked the parent or parents why you're in a wheelchair, what would you want them to say to their children? The parents, what would you want them to say to their children?
Ooh, I like that. I would want them to I would want them to have the children come up to me and ask me, talk to me, because a lot of times parents tell their children's like, shh, don't look at them. And it's like, disabled people exist. They're one of the biggest, they are the biggest minority in the United States.
Yeah, that's a very interesting fact. We're not talking about, like 1 in 100 people or 1 in 20 people. We're talking about billions of people in the world who are disabled. So,
yeah.
And, we ask this question just typically speaking about how do you want people to approach you. And we see a very common pattern to people with disabilities want to be treated just like anybody else. Could you tell us about some experiences?
Yeah. So law school being online has been interesting because a lot of people like didn't know I was disabled. So then when they either like, for example, like people who I didn't befriend, if I saw them on campus when school started, would come up to me. I had this one girl come up to me and be like, "Oh my God, what happened? Are you okay?" And I was like, people don't assume that you're disabled. They always assume you're able-bodied over a Zoom screen. And like seeing someone disabled, especially in a power wheelchair, was very shocking. I had a professor message me because I told her I was disabled. And like, she was like, "Are you still using a wheelchair?" When I was finally coming in person to find out she needed to accommodate for me. And I was like, "So you thought it was temporary?" Because, you know, people just don't assume disabled people, I don't know, can be lawyers or anything of a high caliber.
So how is this like, you know, seeing people who are, you know, educated and yet they still have so many misconceptions about, and you know, as lawyers, you all are advocating for people, standing up for people, and for this type of stuff to happen, does it sting a little more than the average person saying it?
Honestly, it does. I had a law professor when I told her I was physically disabled. Well, at first she was like, I was telling her I was disabled, and she was like, "Yeah, you have a learning disability, huh?" And I was like, "No, I have a physical disability. I'm in a wheelchair." She was like, "Oh, then you shouldn't be here. Just drop out right now." Like, honestly.
What?
A week later, I went to her for office hours again.
Oh my God.
And she was like, "I saw that you won class president. I told you to drop out. You should probably drop the position too if you're going to stay." And I was like, that just happened. That I wish I recorded that.
Yeah. I'm sorry you had to go through that. And it's great to see that you've overcome so much. And you're an inspiration, not just for persons with disabilities, but everyone in general.
Thank you.
You know, that's why we reached out to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's just so shocking seeing like people who are supposed to be advocating for everyone that aren't in it for that, which is sad, but it is what it is.
Your mom, as we were talking about earlier, is a very strong advocate for you. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe that inspired you to be a strong advocate for yourself, and maybe if it did, how it contributed to your work in law?
I think because of my mom, I actually like had an interest towards law. Seeing her, like, I didn't know about laws dealing with disabled individuals. I didn't even know, like, not that I didn't know there was discrimination, but like I didn't think I'd ever experienced discrimination to the level that I have. And just like having my mom there when things would happen and talking about the law, it really gave me a perspective, or it allowed me to know that laws do exist and that we can help people and tell them that not only do they have a voice, but that there are laws out there to help them, because a lot of people don't know about the laws in place that are there to help them.
Could you speak on like some of these laws, like one that's interesting to you?
I think
Put you on the spot here.
I think the Americans with Disabilities Act in general is like interesting, because without that, like, we'd be going to buildings right now and they still wouldn't be accessible.
Yeah, so
The mall, for example, the grocery store, all of that, without the Americans with Disabilities Act, there could be stairs to get there. That's how it is in Europe still to this day. A lot of Europe is not accessible, so grocery stores have stairs, the malls have stairs. Any public place has a stair, like has stairs to get in.
have you ever experienced this lack of accessibility in some places throughout your life?
Oh, definitely in the Middle East and in the not the United States. I mean, there's still some inaccessibility, I would say, in like old towns.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I've experienced like the inaccessibility in the Middle East for sure, and which is, I know I shouldn't say that.
No, it's fine.
Because it's like I'm Middle Eastern, but like, yeah, in the Middle East, in Italy, oh my God, in Italy, and in Europe, like a lot of Europe is inaccessible.
I was reading a little about like what you want to do to change that in the future. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to I want to start a nonprofit organization that works on making the world more accessible in the Middle East and in European countries, because I feel like it is so sad that people in those countries aren't able to do anything or go anywhere, and a lot of times they're shunned, and it's purposely done. Like, they leave them inside the houses because if you're disabled, I don't know what they assume, but that clearly their lives are not equal to a life of an able-bodied person. And that's very much not true. Me and, like, you're going to med school, I'm going to law school, we're living lives, all of us, right? A disability is not shouldn't be a deterrence. Like, it shouldn't deter people from doing what they want to do.
Very well said. We always mention, like, we try to fulfill everyone's or reach everyone's maximum potential, and that varies for different people.
But I see what you're coming from, because, like, not all disabilities are the same.
Yeah.
And, like, I can be a lawyer, but then, like, for example, someone else might not be able to. But that doesn't mean, like, for example, like you said, your sister has Down syndrome, right? For some people, like right now in the media, there are so many. There's been, like, the first model with Down syndrome. There are people on TV shows with Down syndrome. Like, your disability, whether it's cognitive or physical, shouldn't affect a person wanting to do something. Like, if you want to do something in your life, you can do it. Your disability shouldn't define you.
Yeah, I think as a society, we should just be more inclusive.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have people in disabilities just locked in their houses. People are afraid of taking them out in public places. So, yeah.
It's really sad.
I'll tell you, being an inspiration is more, I think it's more important than being, like, any, specific, having a specific title like lawyer, doctor, whatever it is, even though it's, it's mixed in, you can be a doctor and be an inspiration to others. You can be a lawyer and be an inspiration to others. But I think you've been a big inspiration to a lot of people in our community and across the whole nation, really. And you've kind of put yourself out there in terms of advocating through that inspiration. So one of your achievements was being Miss Wheelchair Michigan, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? And if you've ever gotten anybody come up to you and, kind of talk to you about that experience or tell you that you've inspired them?
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to do that was because their mission is to advocate for people with disabilities, and that was something that I was already doing. So I was like, this is perfect for me. And then when I got it, I started going to schools, like especially in Dearborn, the elementary schools during like reading months or just to like read to them. And I would read books on disabilities or on being inclusive. And it was amazing because the little kids would ask like their questions. They're not asking them from a place of ill intentions, but they're also asking you things that a lot of people who are like able-bodied adults would never ask you.
What are some of those questions?
Oh my gosh. Okay, like, how do you go places, right? So people just, they don't ask, they don't want to know, or like they just assume you can't go places. These little kids are like, how did you get here? And I was like, oh, I have an accessible car. And then they're like, oh, how much is it? And when I told them, they were like, oh, you're so rich. Oh my gosh. And I was like, no, those are expensive cars. Like, they shouldn't be. But besides the point, that's because they need to make more accessible cars for people with disabilities. But yeah, they asked the funniest questions. I had a little boy ask me if I was married, and I was like, too personal. It's like, I'm young, I'm a child. And then they were like, no, you're not. You're an adult. We're children. And I was like, they're right. I'm old. They're not. But like just the questions they would ask, I wish I could remember. They had some good questions. Yeah, they asked if I went to school. They asked why I was a lawyer. Like, just like, they did ask why I was in a wheelchair. And they were curious, but they also weren't doing it from like, they wanted to know, and they were like nice. Like, I feel like if they ever meet someone who's in a wheelchair, they're not going to look away from them or like pretend they don't exist, which I've had people tell me. Like, I befriended people in law school, and one of my friends was like, yeah, before me and you became friends, like if I saw a disabled person, I would turn around, I would like purposely avoid them, I would look anywhere but at them, like, and I was like, wow.
And it's interesting that people don't recognize that person with a disability recognizes that, you know, that they're actively trying to avoid them. So it's as simple as, you know, being a kid and asking an honest question without ill intentions. And I'm sure they'll get a positive response.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what the competition like consisted of? You going from place to place and interacting with a lot of people, a lot of children?
It did include like going to schools. It also included working on advocating for legal rights.
So that was part of the whole Miss Wheelchair of Michigan.
Yeah, I'm planning on meeting with a senator I'm waiting for the elections to happen so we find out who the next senator is. But there's a law in place right now for people with disabilities that basically you could get paid, like as a person with a disability, you can legally get paid like cents, pennies for working the same work as an able-bodied person. That exists in America.
Oh, wow. So they get paid significantly less than a person working the same job.
Basically not getting paid.
Like I think it's called, like, the slang for it is like the penny law or something. Like they get paid pennies. Like, yeah. So I'm planning on meeting with a senator to work on that and try to change that law.
So these are big goals that you have moving forward. You know, as a future lawyer, you want to specifically focus on disabilities. Do you see yourself doing anything else? Or I think, you know, this is a field that's not saturated enough, and you could definitely, you know, fill in some big gaps. What specific areas of disability are you planning on focusing on with as a future lawyer?
That's a good question. I don't know. I do know that I want to help with disability law 100%. I'm also interested in medical malpractice and, like, tort reform. But as of what, like, I want to change the laws. I 100% want to change the laws, especially, like, disability laws. But I also want to work, like, I want to get experience in law firms and learn about new laws and see how I can change the laws.
Okay, this is a good time for us to take our break. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back shortly.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you or someone you know would be interested in being a guest on the podcast, or if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at DreamDearborn, or on our website at dreamdearborn.org, or on our email at disabilitiesproject@umich.edu. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm taking over as host. I will be replacing Rashad. Okay, guys, so over the break, we had a really good discussion. It was about the progression of my muscular dystrophy, and now that the break is over, we're going to keep talking about that a little bit so we could share it with you guys.
Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about, you know, you went over the 5th grade story of when it progressed to your legs, but now do you anticipate that it's going to progress in the future even further, or have doctors told you the extent to which it's going to progress to?
So right now, it's been pretty constant. I do have arm pain when it comes to, like, my law exams and typing and everything, so I need more breaks. But as for progression or life expectancy, I don't have one. The doctors say I'm going to live a very long life, or as long as possible. You know, God knows what could happen, right? That's scary.
Yeah.
It's a little morbid, actually.
We'll knock on wood and, you know, pray for the best. So when things were progressing for you with the leg pain and onto your shoulders, were there any symptoms that you were feeling? You talked about a burning sensation. Is that a sign of the progression?
I don't know if that happens to other people with muscular dystrophy, but for me, like, just walking, I would get, like, burning in my legs, and it would get worse and worse, and then I couldn't do it anymore. And now it's, like, the same with my arms. Like, when I take a final, I feel that same pain, and it reminds me of, like, when I was walking and I would feel it.
Speaking of other people with muscular dystrophy, are you aware of the community, or do you know anyone else with muscular dystrophy? Is it a tight-knit community?
I would say when I was younger, I did. I went to MDA camp, and it was like a camp for people with different types of muscular dystrophy, right? So that's how I found out, like, there are some people with muscular dystrophy that walk. There are some people who have speech problems. Like, it affects everyone so differently. And that's actually when I found out about the life expectancy, because one of the girls was talking, and she was like, yeah, I'm not going to live until, like, past 30. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to die. Like, the first thing I said when I got home, I was like, Mom, do I have a life expectancy? Like, am I going to die? She was like, no, of course not. So I asked my doctor, and I was like, be honest with me, I need to know, because, like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to Hawaii right now. Like, bye. But, yeah, no, I don't have one. So I went to Hawaii when I was 20.
So was it like a vacation?
Oh, yeah, it was a vacation. And I wanted to go into the water. And I went in the water. And my dad was holding me. And then a big wave came. And I can float. I can kind of swim, right? But it separated us. And it was a huge wave. And, like, it kept coming and coming. So I was drinking water. I saw my life, like, actually flash before my eyes. And I saw it all.
Gosh.
I was like, this is it. I'm dying. My sister comes up to me, and she pulls me out, and I'm like, how did you even get to me? Like, I could be, like, I don't know how she saved me. I genuinely do not know how she did. Those waves were massive.
Are you the
I love
youngest?
traveling.
Oldest? No, you're not the youngest.
No, I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah, my second born sibling. So like my younger sister, but not my youngest sister.
What's the age difference?
3 years. So that means she was 17. This 17-year-old grabbed me, and I don't know how she did it. I'm telling you guys, those waves were so bad.
We should still send this to Fufu right now, how you're talking so good.
Yeah, she's also a law student. She just started her first year.
Oh, nice.
She's so smart.
Same school?
Same school. She's, we have to, we got to stick to the same places. She went to U of M.
She has a great mentor.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just want to go back real quick to the symptoms that you were talking about that like you've experienced, through the progression of your disability. Are there any like remedies or any home remedies that you've come up with, or any medications, or, physical therapy or nutrition, things that help you feel better?
Yeah, so there is no medication, but there is pool therapy, which helps with like the stretching and the pain. The pool's heated. And then I also like sitting in jacuzzis. That really helps me. And
Jacuzzis are really good.
yeah, I take advantage of those, and I always say I want to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And I just use the jacuzzi as an excuse. So
Do you feel like your mental health relates at all to your physical health? Like when you're, stress-free, not stressed out about exams and whatnot, do you feel like that reduces your physical pain and vice versa?
yeah, but
Okay.
that's because like when I'm stressed, I'm doing more.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm already stressed, and then adding to doing more physical things, it's like all too much, I would say. But mental health, is that what you were going to talk about?
Yeah, no, I wanted to know if, like, when you're feeling better just mentally, when you're in school, a lot of college students are depressed, for example. A lot of college students are just under so much stress that it leads to, poorer health outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know if these things exacerbate your muscular dystrophy. If when you're feeling, down, or when you're stressed out about school, if
okay.
that makes your symptoms more severe.
No. Well,
Okay.
stress maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But like if I'm sad, no, it doesn't affect anything.
What if we move away from sadness and go to happiness now? What are some things that make you happy, or what do you like to do for leisure?
Travel.
Took the
yeah.
words out of my mouth.
I like
Travel.
Yeah, I love traveling.
Said Middle East. Where else? Hawaii?
Europe,
Yeah.
Hawaii,
Europe.
yeah.
Italy?
Italy was the worst. We booked a hotel that was supposed to be handicap accessible. Like, you click the option, we get there. There's a step to get into the hotel.
Ooh.
They don't give us a handicap accessible room either. They're like, oh, we don't have any.
So what do they do? Like, do they lift the wheelchair at that point? Have you ever had to?
So I have a wheelchair that's 400 pounds,
Oh,
and you can't lift it, but
you gotta be really strong to lift it.
Yeah, you have to be really strong. So I took it, and we kept it in our hotel in Switzerland, which is where I was studying abroad, because I wanted that specific wheelchair. I feel comfortable in it. Like, I'm going to do school, I'm going to study, I'm going to need that wheelchair. There was no handicap accessible car to get it to the hotel. We were stuck in the airport for like a day because like the people wouldn't help. Finally, we found out there was a public busing system, so we took it to the bus, and then we brought another wheelchair that my family bought me. It's like a power wheelchair, but it folds up like a stroller, so you can like put it in the trunk. So we took that with us to Italy, thankfully, and it was able to get lifted because it's only like 50 pounds with me, and not with me in it, but like it's light, so you can just like tip it and like lift it up.
Do you often change between wheelchairs, or is that only like when you're traveling? Or
Just traveling.
this wheelchair that you're currently using, you've had it and you stay on it for the majority of your time?
Yeah, this one's a new one. So yeah, she's only been with me for like 2 weeks.
Does she have a name?
No, she doesn't, but I'm calling her. I'm calling her she right now. Why not?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what are some features that it has?
Ooh, okay, yeah. This one, it goes up and down. So like if I'm in front of a podium and I want to do a speech, I don't have to be like hidden behind it anymore. I can actually be like standing.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Wow, that is really cool.
It was really fun when I did it. Like
I almost want to ask you to show us.
Yeah.
But
after I will.
after, okay.
We'll see if I'm taller than you.
Yeah, you probably are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It moves as well, correct? Like
Yeah. It
Forward,
tilts
backward.
back and forward, and these footrests go up to like elevate my feet too. It's got some good features.
how fast does it go?
You know what? I had the guy put it at the fastest speed, and I still haven't tested it out because I did once, and I like flew, like I didn't
wow.
fly, but like it went really fast.
Be careful.
Yeah.
You're living on the edge.
Stop. That's so funny.
I want to ask you about sleep a little bit,
Ooh.
and if your condition affects your sleep at all. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your sleep.
Oh yeah, yeah, it does.
It does.
Very much affects my sleep.
How so?
So the pain.
Yeah.
It's worse at night. I have to turn like a lot, or I get like a lot of pain, which is I guess a good thing because if I didn't, I wouldn't know to like have to turn, and then I could get sores or something. But yeah, no, with me, for some reason, the chronic pain just comes out at night. So like I don't get as much sleep. I would say I'm getting more sleep now. After I got COVID, I took antibodies, and for some reason, after getting the antibodies, I was able to sleep a full night for the first time in like years.
Okay.
But yeah, it does affect my sleep.
So do you take any pain medications like Tylenol
No.
or Motrin?
No, because if you take them, you'll get used to them, right? And then on a day when you're in a lot of pain, you won't have any pain relief, right? So
Yeah.
it's just for like really bad days.
How does that work? I've never heard of taking antibodies. Like,
Oh,
are those like,
if you test positive for COVID within the first 10 days,
okay.
I don't know if they approve everyone, but I know if you're disabled or elderly for sure,
Oh yeah, they could give you antibodies.
they will
Yeah,
give
that
you
is true.
antibodies. Oh, I was literally like, when I first got the
Yeah.
COVID, it was so bad for me. Like 3 days in, I found out about the antibodies. I did the appointment. 2 days later, I was good.
Okay.
And I slept a full night. Oh, it was so amazing.
And was that like the first time you had a full night's rest?
in years?
Okay.
How many
Like-
hours do you typically get of sleep?
Well, because I wake up, I don't know, but I would say it probably like, I love sleep, like probably 10 hours, but like within those 10 hours, take out like 3-ish. Yeah, so like 7 hours.
Not
Rashad sleeps a lot.
You sleep a lot,
I sleep all day,
bro.
24 hours.
Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
I
Not
think
every 2 hours.
I
That's
think a lot of
little.
people, wake up many times at night without noticing. But it sounds like for you, it's a very consistent thing, and you're waking
Yeah.
up many
It's
times.
noticeable, of course, because the pain, right? So
Mhm.
you know that you're waking up. Yeah.
Have you ever considered like getting either a Fitbit or one of those like sleep rings that monitor your sleep and trying experimenting with different things that could improve your sleep?
I never thought about that. I have an Apple Watch, and like
Okay.
I've watched it, like see how many times I wake up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't it just shows you lines. It doesn't, I don't know how to make it get into the detail. If you know, let me know. Because I didn't know if it was detailed or not.
I would let you know. Unfortunately, I have a Samsung, so
Yeah, he's not an Apple person.
let's change it up. Anything you want to talk about, Sarah?
I was gonna be a summer associate at one of the biggest law firms in Detroit. I was gonna get $40,000 for being there for like 6 weeks. And they didn't give it to me because they read my article about me being disabled. And then they wanted to talk about that, which they're not supposed to do. Like, they didn't evaluate me as a person. They evaluated me after, like, that specific lady did her research on me. She was so rude the whole time, too. She was like, oh, yeah. When I would comment on something, she would just, like, be like, why are you saying that? Like, I can't.
So this is what you're talking about when you say like people see the disability and not the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was this like your first major experience where you were shut down because of your condition? Or have you had other experiences with such discrimination?
Student body president.
I've had there's been a lot of times where I've been shut down. When I ran for student body president at my undergrad institution, like the main argument against me was how can she run a school if she can't walk, right? I still ended up winning by double the votes, but it was just like that.
Wow.
That was their tactic to get people to not vote for me. And I was just like, why are you evaluating someone based off their disability instead of their credentials or qualifications or what they have done or what they will do? And then I went to law school, same thing. I had a professor tell me to drop out after I won 1L class president. She told me to drop out of the school as well. And then, like, the interviews, like we talked about, like, a lot of the people would rather not ask me about my educational qualifications or, like, what I have done. Like I was able to be an extern for a federal judge my first summer out of law school. And then when it came to my second summer, I was supposed to have an associate position somewhere. But when it comes down to it, we still live in an era where people are not being hired if they're disabled, or they're not looked at as an equal candidate. Like there could be two candidates and one could be more qualified, but if they have a disability, they'd rather choose the able-bodied person.
I really want to talk about how this spurred you to advocate for people and what you did about it. Obviously now you're making a clear path through pursuing law, but tell us a little bit more about your past advocacy.
Yeah, so I started the Disability Law Association as a way to bring more awareness to disabilities and the rights that people with disabilities have so they know about them. And that's kind of what I feel like you guys are doing now, like bringing awareness to disabilities and doing it in a way that people know like that disabilities exist and are not ableist to other people.
How was the reception to those initiatives?
The reception.
Like in terms of, for example, the Disability Law Association that you founded, right? What did like other students think about it? Did you get other people to join the team? Was there a team, like that?
Yeah, I have a really great team. I feel like they're people who are there to like advocate, but there are still people who, like, for example, we had an org fair last week, right? And my friend is president of the organization next to me, and she was like, we also have the Disability Law Association. The girl looked at it and she was like, disability, not interested, and just walked away. And there are like a lot of students who just don't care enough about disability, or maybe they don't know what's going on with the ways that people with disabilities are discriminated against. I am excited though, because we are bringing Justice Bernstein onto campus, and I don't know if you guys know who Justice Bernstein is, but he's like the Michigan Supreme Court Justice, and he's blind, and he was able to like, he is showing people that just because you have a disability, like his disability does not define him. He's the Supreme Court Justice. Not many people can be a justice of the Supreme Court, and he's doing all of that while also having a disability.
Yeah, honestly, we have another person in our community, Khodr Farhat. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He ran for, what did he run for?
School board.
School board, yeah. It's amazing how individuals like that don't let their disabilities define them and overcome the stigma around it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've had great discussions with you, Sarah, and now we want to move into our last segment, the dream segment. Rashad, please take us away.
Will do. First, is there anything else that you want to talk about, Sarah, before we get to the dream segment? Anything that maybe you're just remembering now to mention, or
Just thank you guys for doing this.
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to our dream segment. This is our final segment of every podcast. We ask this to kind of get a better idea of your outlook for the future. Basically, the question is, what is your dream? It could be your dream related to anything, disabilities, not disabilities, just in general. But we'd love to know what your dream is.
Yeah, I think my dream would be for like, or my goal is for the world to become a more accessible place everywhere, like not just in the United States or in Canada, just everywhere. People accepting each other and not letting anything define their perception of a person.
Very beautiful, very well said. Hopefully people across the world will hear this and try to implement the message. But for now, we try to work locally and spread this message locally. And this has been great, a very inspiring episode for all of our viewers.
And you've done a great job of already, contributing to that dream and working towards making it come to fruition. So
Thank you.
thank you for all your work, and thank you to our viewers watching at home. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Dream Dearborn, also on YouTube, Dream Dearborn, and check out our website, dreamdearborn.org. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the final episode of Season 1 of Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn with Sarah. This has been great. We'll see you all next season.
With me as host.